And we're very excited and fortunate to have him with us on the call today. Mike's been in real estate at least 25 years. Isn't that right, Mike?
Yeah, but starting at 27.
Starting 27, and interestingly enough, he's still recognized as one of the top real estate agents in the United States and actually in the world. He works with buyers, sellers, does ranches, does first-time home buyers all the way up to working with CEOs of companies. I first met Mike, oh geez, I'd say it's at least 10, maybe 15 years ago. I was introduced to Mike Parker by Pat Zabe, who was a good friend and a mentor to me as I started my speaking career in real estate. And Pat said to me that this is a guy you need to follow and watch because, you know, he knows what he's doing. And Mike and I have stayed in touch over the years, and when we got involved with Top 5, Mike was one of the first people I called and asked him if he would help drive the direction and make sure we were doing the right things for top agents as a Top 5 on the Top 5 Advisory Council. And Mike graciously accepted the opportunity and has been an invaluable part of the content and the direction of where we're headed with Top 5. So we're excited to have him, not only as a top producer, but someone who has a focus and has been influential in the success that we're having with Top 5. And last but not least, Mike is the only one of our Advisory Council members that was also invited to be part of our Elite Speakers and Coaches group. And Mike is a phenomenal speaker. He hosts his own events as well as shares his thoughts and ideas with top agents around the country. And so Mike is a speaker, he's a trainer, he's a coach, he's a real estate professional, and he's a great ambassador for real estate agents around the world. So Mike, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for all your support and everything you've done for us in Top 5.
Very appreciate it. It's a great program. It's a great company there, and I just enjoy being around the top agents and sharing because as much as I give, I get more back. So, you know, it's a true pleasure.
Isn't that how the world works?
It is too. I learned that early in my life, early in my career, and you know that's what made the difference between me and all my competitors around here. Very few people train. They say, what do I got to do to go to the next step? I said, you got to train. You got to get out of this area and get someplace where you can learn something.
You know, it was interesting when we put our topics together for 2013 and we surveyed our top 5 members. One of the hot topics was, you know, how do you find and how do you keep great people on your team? And I asked Mike if he would share with us how he's kept great people on his team for so many years, and I asked him to come up with a topic, and Mike came up with the topic, finding the perfect playmate. Now, it sounds like a topic for Vegas, Mike, so you're going to have to elaborate a little bit as you teach us how to find the perfect playmate.
Well, I appreciate it. We're going to get started here, and it is a little bit of a different topic, a headline right there. It's an eye-catching thing, but at the same time, when you're looking for an assistant, whether you are brand new and it's your first assistant, or whether it's your second assistant, or you're a large team and it's a fifth assistant, it is looking for a playmate. It's looking for somebody who is working with you and working hard. And first thing, I service Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky. We appreciate your referrals. Finding that playmate, you know, whether it's male, whether it's female, whether it's young, whether it's old, you want to find that person that's got some energy. You know, you want them to have some energy, and you want to be able to have that person that you can rely on. And I'll talk about my 2 assistants here in a little bit here. I've got a full-time and I've got a VA that was with me full-time who went VA. And, you know, you want somebody who's going to push you, who's going to take care of you. When you go into battle, let's face it, real estate's a battle sometimes, especially today. Me and Mel, my assistant, she's been with me 15 years. We were talking about this the other day. Just, you know, this business just got tougher. You know, you got to deal with the appraisers have got an edge on them right now. The underwriters, you know, we used to have one May 1st of 2009. We went from 1 to 3 underwriters, and it's just getting things done. And then agents are hiding behind email and hiding behind voicemail, not wanting to talk. And it's just, you know, you got to have that playmate's got to be somebody there who can work for you, but also keep us at a perspective where it's not negative all the time. You know, one of the things is I tell people is, you know, don't forget the seniors. You know, they are one of the best workforces out there to look at. They're most experienced. They are in the labor pool. There's some high quality out there. And here is one of the #1 reasons to look at seniors for your playmate. They have a sphere of influence. They have people who have got money. They got boomers. They got seniors there. And if you're hiring a Gen X or a Gen Y, They might have a little bit higher energy level, but they don't know anybody. But the seniors have been around for a few years, and they know some people. And one of the first things is I tell people, and I know agents don't pay their assistants. Now, when you pay an assistant, like I'm getting ready to say, they got to be licensed, okay? There's non-licensed assistants and there's licensed. I'm talking about licensed. If Beryl sent me a referral from Salt Lake to Cincinnati, I would pay him X% referral fee. Well, I do the same thing with my assistants. If they bring business in, I pay them a 25% referral fee. Guess what happens? They're making a salary, they're making a bonus, and then all of a sudden, because they're licensed, they're making an extra 10, 15, 20,000. I've had one assistant make almost 40,000 one year strictly in referral fee. So it's one of the things there. It's an easy way to tip them and have them bring business in. Just remember, Playmates come in all shapes, sizes. They make you be the best that you can become. That is the key. You know, you're wanting, when you're hiring somebody, you want somebody who is going to push you. They're not there doing the work and just waiting for everything to be handed off. They're asking for the work. And that comes in any colors, ages, sizes, shapes. You want that playmate. You want that person who is going to push you. I'm not talking about this type of playmate. The type of playmate here, rule number 1, you never mess with the cash register. I don't care if you're male, female, what. You never mess around with the playmate. You never mess around with the cash register. That just needs to be said. Hey, here's my 2 rock stars. The lady on the right, that's Melanie Sullivan. She's been with me. This coming October will be 16 years. She's helped me close over 2,000 units. The lady on the left is Jill. She worked 4 years in the office, went home to have kids, and has worked the last 6 years as a VA. Jill works in anywhere between 20 and 30 hours for me. We just kind of changed the team around in the last 6 to 8 months. Jill did all the buyer and was working the buyer leads and doing our internet marketing. Melanie was doing all the listing and the closing. We just changed things around, and I'll talk about a little about the DISC test here later, but we put Melanie in charge of the buyers, and she's in charge of the closing, and Jill is taking care of all the listings. It was a huge move. It's probably something I should have done 2 or 3 years earlier. It worked more to each girl's strength, but the best thing about it is getting us the results we want. 15 years and 10 years. You got to take care of them, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But these 2 girls are dynamite. Of viewing. Okay, I see a lot of us people, a lot of agents hiring assistants, and they're not that strong a person. They don't believe that they are the CEO and they're the president, and all of a sudden the assistant is making all the decisions on the team or the partnership there, and it just doesn't work. You know, you are the CEO and you are the president because you are cutting the check. Okay. And let's just speak about cutting checks for a second. 99% of the assistants are employees. They're not contractors. They're not independent contractors. There are very, very few occasions. Highly advise you get with your accountant and get with your broker and kind of go over which ones to be if you're going to hire. I know a lot of people try to get around that. There is a 20-question test from the IRS. If the answer yes is to any one of those, then they are an employee. That's somebody you do not want to get mad at you. Who do you see here? And just take a look at this picture. I shot this as a picture of an art gallery up in Annapolis, Maryland. Up there, I was up there last summer, and I saw this picture. I took a picture. Most people see the president. Well, I see people who have used assistants and delegated to get to a very high standard. These are leaders, and they have used assistants throughout their life to help them get to the next level, and then up to the next level, then up to the next level. Well, that's what we want to do in our life, is when you're going to hire an assistant, I truly believe an assistant should be a 4-to-1 ratio. If you're spending $30,000 on an assistant, they should bring you an extra $120,000. If you've got 3 or 4 assistants, you might be hiring an assistant to maintain a certain level or something like that. But if you're hiring your first assistant, it's not to take work off from you. It is to increase your income there. What is your job? And this is something that real estate agents have a very, very hard job. Because I tell them that whatever you like to drink, coffee, tea, or milk, sit down by the legal pad, start writing out. And the first thing you got to write out is, what is your job? Okay? And real estate agents have a very hard time with this because they want to do this. They want to put down all this. They're the top selling agent. They're the top listing agent. They're the rainmaker. They're the manager. They're the training. They're the CFO. Well, you got to be able to delegate this. Whether it's your first assistant or whether it's your third assistant, what is your job on the team? If you're hiring your first assistant and you're going into a team level there, what is the vision? What are you painting down the road? Because when you're sitting with somebody and you're going to start talking about, okay, we are here, we have 2 assistants now, we have the listings and the pending. What I'm looking for now is somebody to work with me and work with me in lead generation, and I expect this is what the vision I see of that position. You need to be able to sit down and show people, but first you have to decide yourself, what is that? And by doing that is, what are you best at? Now, funny I've found this over time, is what some agents are best at is not what they like doing the best. You know, I know a couple of agents who are really, really good negotiators, but they'll flat out tell you they hate negotiating. I said, how come you're so good negotiating? She goes, Mike, it just comes natural. And sometimes that will happen. And you have to make a decision whether you want to keep that or not. It's important not to kid yourself here. What you are worst at, you need to sit down and you need to write that down on the legal pad. And it's things I'm not good at. And that you list those things there, whether it's follow-up, whether it's pricing, whatever that is. And when you go to hire somebody, that should be some of their strengths. Now, if they're a brand new assistant, they might not be good in pricing because they don't know the market. But you can hire a part-time assistant to take care of that. That might be another real estate agent, or better yet, it could be an appraisal. You might get the property appraised up front, even if it took a few dollars out of your pocket to help you on pricing. One of the things you want to do is know how much money do you cost yourself in not being the best at something. Usually most agents I find that are not the best at something, it's pricing. And they don't sharpen the pencil hard enough. They let the seller talk them into a certain price and things. Well, first things, if you've not done this before, and I'll give you this as a homework assignment. When you take a listing, how much money do you spend on it in the first 10 days? When you take a listing, you going out to the house, seller coming into there, you're doing the pricing, the pre-listing presentation, the presentation at the house or at the office, you taking pictures, putting the signs up and things like that. How much money and how much time do you have into that? My figure is between Jill, Melanie, and Mike, my time and my cost, I've got about $1,500 into every listing that first 10. Well, when you know what that is, you know, all of a sudden your pencil starts getting a little bit sharper. You want to have a written job description, and your written job description is your toolkit. Everything starts with the job description, and we're going to talk a lot about this today. And one of the things is the written job description starts down that legal pad of what you're good at and what you're not good at. And the things that you are not good at, that is what you want to hire. That is some of the things you want to look at personally, making sure those are the strengths of the assistant that you hire. Best job description ever. I play cards one night a week with a gentleman who has flown with the pilot who landed the plane in Hudson. And we've talked quite a bit about what happened there. And, you know, some people will call it procedures, but I'm going to call it job description. You know, if you look at the job description of a pilot, there's a couple of things in the job description. Number one is to stay calm under pressure. Well, your engine's going out and you're going down the river. I don't know how much more pressure there is. Number two is follow the procedures that you've been taught. And this gentleman, as I was talking to Dick the other day, he said, Mike, what saved him was he stayed calm, and the second thing he did is he did everything by the book. He said the third thing, he had a little bit of luck. But what happens is when the pressure gets mounted, and let's face it, real estate, death, divorce, and real estate, those are the top three things people get upset about. Well, if you got a job description there and if you follow that job description and stay in tune with what the procedures have in place, it makes it a lot easier. One of the things, I love this picture, and, you know, a job description will give you no surprises. You know, you're going to have a standards of procedure that you're going to have. You're going to have an SOP in place, but your job description should cover everything in detail. And a job description in detail is just talking about who covers what, how they cover, and things like that. Well, if you have something that comes up that falls through the crack, before you go blame an assistant or look at there, go back to your job description. Was it in that person's job description to take care of whatever went wrong? Okay? And if it is, then that's when you fix it. But you want to take the surprises away. This is a copy of a job description here that was revised December of 11. And we're going to actually, these are going to be given out to you. You'll have them here, and you are more than welcome to use them. They are strictly for your use, not to be given away to anybody else, but they are for your use. And these are pretty detailed. Everything is broke out in the general office duties, the listing, the closing, website maintenance, incoming calls, any event planning, anything like that that comes along. Volunteer efforts. As you can see, everything here is very clear, very concise, very, very detailed. It's written down. That description that comes in. And when you're interviewing, and we're going to talk about interviewing here, but when you're interviewing, these are things that you're sharing with that new person coming in. I love when I give this to somebody. One or two things are going to happen. They're going to say, oh my, or they're not going to say anything, but you can read it in their eyes saying, this is cool, this is very detailed. And what happens is that person saying, oh my, probably not going to work, because all of a sudden they see how in-depth and how detailed this is. You know, when I'm hiring for an assistant, and it depends on the position, what I'm hiring and things like that for, I'm usually, the number one thing I'm looking for is follow-through. Are they going to follow up and they're going to follow through? And then how detailed are they going to be? And we'll talk about the DISC here in a little bit. But these little right here, these little job descriptions right here can save your butt. And these, our job description for a office assistant here, so let me back up one here. This is, yeah, for the real estate assistant. These are like 5 pages deep, and we're going to be giving those out to you, and you're more than welcome to use them. I love this picture, and this is what a great job description does. It takes care of that itch, you know, because if you get something messes up in a deal or something that happens, that job description doesn't work. You know, there's going to be a lot of itching, and it's just, you know, that job description takes care of the itch. Places where you can advertise, you can add for assistance. You know, you can use LinkedIn. I really highly recommend using LinkedIn. That's my favorite place to go. There's Craigslist. Personal opinion, strictly my personal opinion, Craigslist is where the worst quality comes from. Might be the best quantity, but it's where the worst quality comes from. Monster is a place where you're going to need to pay. LinkedIn is also too, to a degree. You're going to have to pay to put ads on, but the quality's there. I've had fairly good success when I'm looking for somebody part-time or full-time in the past using my Facebook. And I'm maxed out on friends with Facebook. I'm about 5,000. About 2,500 of it is local, and about 2,500 of it is agents nationwide from where I've been speaking. And, it's just, I put something out there. Business is really good right now. We're possibly looking, the Mike Parker team is possibly looking to grow. We're looking for somebody who would be committed to the real estate industry. If you know somebody who would like to get into real estate, please feel free to have them contact me. And it never doubts that you don't get 2 to 3 responses kind of looking there. There's been a couple times where I've gotten 8 or 9, but it was more of a part-time position, specific position there. But when you're doing the ads there, this is one that was, actually this was back in 2008. We had a local Caldwell Banker office, and one of their top agents sent through Craigslist. This was done on Craigslist, and was looking for a person. And the way this was wrote out, I kind of like this. It's a lot of white space here. And when you're writing an ad for your personal assistant, it's just like you're writing an ad for a house. And you want a lot of white space, very easy to read, very pointed, straightforward right there, and go from there. The one thing about Craigslist, it opens it up to a whole different category. And sometimes they're professional and sometimes they're not. I'm not judging the people. I'm just telling you, when you put an ad out on Craigslist, your interviewing process is going to be a little bit more detailed than if it is from a LinkedIn or a Monster or something like that. In the interview process, there's going to be an application, and in the application there, you're going to fill out. Now, different people, some people will have them come into the office and fill out the application. We've done that quite a bit. I love sending the application to them by email. That makes them have to print it out and fill it out, and then we like for them to bring it into the office. Some people will say, well, I'll just scan it and send it to them. We'll take that. But I like for them to actually print it out, fill it out, and drop it off at the office. That way we can kind of get a feel for what they look like, how they look. An old banker taught me this. An old CEO of the banker taught me this. He says, Mike, when you're really starting to interview somebody process, early in the process, walk them out to their car. And I go, Perry, why? He said, well, the way they take care of their car is the way they're going to take care of their house and their office. I said, interesting. He says, there's a bunch of McDonald bags and trash laying all over that place. That means that desk is probably going to be sloppy all the time. He said, if their car is spotless and taken care of, probably going to have a clean desk and things there. Just a little tip there for things like that. This is important, what I'm about to say. The rules and the laws have been changing over the years, but there are quite a few things that have changed in the last couple of years. This is a home services contract. It's called a pre-employment screening questionnaire, and there is a ton of disclosures. If you're going to do any kind of background or credit check on these people, you need to disclose, disclose, disclose. Here's my advice. You need to get with your company, with your broker, and talk about hiring an assistant, but you also need to say, what is the company policy on bringing somebody in? What is the disclosures? Get with your company. You also need to get with your accountant. If you are going to get a background credit check, there are different corporations out there that will do that. They should have the disclosures that are mandated by federal law. This is something you do not want to screw around with, especially if you're going to do the background credit check. I highly recommend in doing the background and credit check. I remember one time I hired an assistant that I didn't do it on, and it really came back to bite me and actually got my pocketbook a little bit. And it's just, it's one of the things there because what that person put on the credit report did not, well, not a credit report, but on the background was not true. And we followed up on it a little bit, but we didn't go in as depth as we should. And, it just got into my pocketbook a little bit, we'll say that. But keep a copy of this also in the signed disclosure. Whatever they sign, whoever you meet with, that is something you want to scan and keep in a file folder, Dropbox, or something like that. You never want to throw that away. This is a DISC test. I have taken the DISC test over 25 times, and I have come back the same every time. In the DISC test, there will be a form filled. You fill this out, and it gets sent off, and I'll talk a little bit about where you can send this off to. Usually the cost of the test to get read is anywhere from $10 to $25. There are 3 or 4 places online that you can go and get a free one done. And in the disc there, this is something that is very important, not only in your hiring the perfect Playmate, your assistant, but this also works in your buyers and your sellers. And I'm quite sure a lot of you have heard of the DISC, the D-I-S-C. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I think is better for your first assistant, and then go on through. The D is for the dominant, it's for the director. The D is the bottom line. You know, there's cuts to the chase. These are good office managers, okay? Now, believe it or not, as I tell Mel, I had another assistant when Melanie started working for me, and then Tarina went and took a job as a builder, and Mel became my right hand. And Mel was not a D when she started with me. And she laughs and she goes, I just wasn't old enough yet. She was about 25 when she started. She is definitely a D now. I mean, she has grown into that position. She is my office manager, and she takes care of things. You know, that is her personality there. They do play to win, the Ds do. The I is the socializer. They're more the life of the party. You can usually tell by what an I personality is by how they dress. They're more into the most current fashions, usually wear a lot of bright colors. They work off of energy. They play for applause. You can have an I as an assistant. They usually are not the best assistants, but you can have an I as an assistant. But those are ones that you got to keep on saying, hey, you're doing a great job and things like that. And, you know, the feedback for them, it cannot be as sharp as it is this. Like if I could walk into Mel and say, hey, the Johnson fountain, where are we at? You know, wouldn't be able to do that much on an I as a quick. The S, you know, they're very much about safety, you know, and why do we keep want to change that? And your S's there, they're working hard for you in the back. They're like your home room mother. They're very, very good with people, but they very much need to be supported. The type C is the detail, the thinker. Those are your accountants. Usually your pilots are that way. They make pretty good assistants. Sometimes they can be too much C. In a perfect world, and when you do the DISC test, you're going to have a high and you're going to have a low. And, you know, for me, the perfect assistant is a DC. If I can get me a DC, that's my personality. I am, when I'm stressed, I'm a DC. I'm a DS when I'm not stressed. But when pressure gets on, I get very, very detailed, very, very quick. And that's what you're going to find is this will move a little bit. But a DC, a director, a thinker like that, make a very good assistant from there. This is great applications of DISC and so in your business forms, in your family. I taught this, I forget where it was, I think it was Pennsylvania. I had a guy call me like 3 weeks later. He says, Mike, I just want to tell you, thank you for getting my son back to me. And I go, John, what are you talking about? He says, you know what? I'm very much a D. He is very much I. And once I realized what he was and how I had to relate to him, our relationship has just took a huge swing to the good. So that's great. That's one of the things there is knowing how to talk to the people and how to treat those assistants who are working for you there. It's important to know where they fall in that DISC program. And again, if you look here, if you look to the left of the S, there's 35% of the population is an S, 35% of the population is a C, 25% of the population is an I, and only 5% of the population is a D. Interview questions. When they come in to do the interviewing, we sit down with them, we come in, we introduce them, we give them the DISC test, and we give them the interview questions here. And we give these interview questions to them, and what I like to do is I like to say is, please take your time here and fill this out. I'll be back in about 15 minutes. Okay, and I kind of put them on the clock a little bit. I want to see how they work. The DISC test depends. I've seen people take as long as 30 to 45 minutes to fill that baby out. I can usually do one in 5 minutes, you know. And what you want to see is are they so detailed they're not going to get any work done, or are they able to work with time frames and things like this? This is one also as a sample that you're going to get a copy of here and be able to do as interview questions. We want them to fill it out. Now, when they take the time to fill it out, it is important that you go over these questions with them. You might not go in great detail on each one, but there are a couple on here that you do want to go into. Is what is considered your greatest strength? What is considered your greatest weakness? You cannot see the question on here because there's one down there, but the best question on here is, what did you like best about your past boss, and what did you not like about your past boss? You know, and you might hear something that, you know, the boss they did not like, they might be describing you right away. So you know it might not be a good fit from there, but you can ask these questions and get a good feel. Here's some of the questions to ask. You know, describe a good supervisor. A couple of really good questions I underlined here is, what would be your ideal daily work environment? Okay, and you know, and talk to me about that. You know, what's your setup and things like that. Get into how they work and how they feel. And then the next question is where do you want to be in life in 5 years? I mean, I remember last time I was hired an assistant, and I was really getting into coming really close to hiring this girl right away until I answered this question. Well, she goes, in the next 2 years, I hope to be in Tennessee, more closer to my family. Well, I don't want to take 4 or 6 months of training and get somebody up to going, then all of a sudden, 2 years from now, they pull up and move to Tennessee. So, you know, by knowing that, and it's also, too, you kind of get a vision about that perfect playmate, that assistant, you know, where they are in their cycle of life. And are they, do they have a vision? Or are they living day by day, mouth by mouth? You know, how are they working there? How tech savvy are you? You know, in today's real estate world, we all have to be tech savvy to a certain degree. Some are better than others. Who does the interview and how many interviews? I'm going to answer the second question first. How many interviews? As many as it takes. I've hired before on 2. It's usually 3 to 4 for me. Who does the interview? I am not a good interviewer. I like too many people too quick. And I've made a couple really bad hires on that. So what we do now is we've done a couple different things. Number one, I've used both these ladies here. These are real estate agent coaches, Linda McLean and Amy Sturr. I've used both of them. I know Pinnacle, I think, Earl, I'm pretty sure that you guys offer this there where you would do the interview that person and go over the first or second interview with them. Usually, the last one I hired was Linda here a couple of years ago, and that person was brought on in more of a part-time status for a period of time. We knew a position was only going to be 12 to 18 months to do a certain project, and I got brought in on the third interview, and I talked to 2 people, and we hired one, and you know, there was good use of my time, but you know, I get into, do I like them right away or not, you know, or this person's not dressed right for the job, or things like that, and I wasn't getting into the actual cycle of talent there. You know, the one thing I've always learned is you want to hire talent. You know, all things being equal, you take the talent. One of the other things you've done, I've done this in the past. I actually did this back in the late 90s quite a bit. I had a temporary service that I hired, and at one time I had a large team back in 98 through 2002 or something like that. We had like 10, 12 people, and I had like 4 or 5 assistants. And when it came time to hire somebody, I had a temporary service I had a good relationship with, and I would hire them, and to say it was a $12 an hour position, I would pay probably around $18 an hour to the temporary service for 3 months, 4 months, and then they would come over full time into my position and things like that. But I got a chance to use the person and see how the person, if the person didn't work out, I didn't feel it was a good mix, or the team, it just didn't mix well with the team, I could switch somebody out without having a full cost of losing somebody there. This is something most agents, for whatever reason, don't do. You need to go to Realtor.org. It is our library. And I just went to Realtor.org and I typed in personal assistants. And this article came up here. Alex, I met Alex this past year at the CRS convention. Here's a field guide that was just updated in January 2013. It's a field guide to personal assistants. Look down here at the bottom. It's talking about personal assistants. 14% of realtors use at least one personal assistant. 3% use 2 or more. 51% of assistants are licensed. 54% of assistants are employed part-time. And 67% of the personal assistants work exclusively for one realtor. Not much of today is talked about VAs, but I'm going to take this time right here to talk about a VA. A VA is a virtual assistant. Historically, a virtual assistant will take care of one specific job for you, whether that's lead generating, whether that's marketing the listing, or whether it's taking care of the closings and things like that. It is imperative, and I have been through good VAs and I've been through bad VAs. It's imperative that the job description is wrote down in very, very detail. They understand exactly what it is, and they understand what the time frame it needs to take to do that certain job. You do not give somebody, say, okay, I want you to market these listings on the web for me. Here's the places I want to go, and give them free reign on amount of time. You say, okay, I'm going to give you this one listing to put up. What am I looking at time frame-wise? Well, to do the 15 sites and uploading the pictures, things, Mike, you're looking at somewhere between 45 minutes and 75 minutes per listing. Okay, well, then you have an idea. It shouldn't, when the bill comes out, you don't have a bill, you gave them 6 listings that week to turn in, you don't have 6 times 2, you should have 6 times 1. 6 times 2 being 2 hours, get charged for 12 hours versus the 6 hours. Very, very specific is that the VA should give you what that time frame is for them. Also, if they're a VA and they've been in the business for a while, they should have testimonials coming from them, from people who have used them. Make the phone calls. Talk to the people. See past work they've done. If they've done marketing for somebody or whatever they're doing, if they're doing closings for somebody, talk to them. Don't just talk to that agent right there. Talk to the people who they've been working with in the field. You want to get to know if they can do the job or not. And again, here, this is just talking about where some of the sources were on the personal assistant from Realtor.org. Realtor.org is, I just found a lot of agents overlook that and don't go there enough. Why were these two the greatest? The greatest answers there. And it's kind of funny. I ask this question a lot of people, and I said, why do these two here were the greatest answers? My opinion is, and if you ever watch any of the old movies of the two dancing, they just knew where each one were going to be at the specific time. And that is from years of practicing. That is from years of getting to know each other. And this is what you want to be. When it's all said and done, you want to be Fred and Ginger. And that's what I think me and Nell are. When I start the sentence, she ends it. I'll be in here. We have 2 private offices beside each other. And she's in there, and she is talking to one of my sellers or talking to a client, and I hear her just comes out of her mouth. It's my saying. It's what I say. It's how I do it. This does not happen overnight. But this is sitting down from day one and start working toward this, start practicing, start going over. Okay, if one of my sellers come in and call and is complaining about this, how do we handle this? You have a job description for the job, okay, but in the job description for the job there, whatever it is, it's for putting new listings in, okay? And, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen here? If a complaint call comes in, how are you going to handle it? Talk to them, walk them through it. Just don't let them be out there like a horse on the plains. They're going wherever which way. You want it to be handled a certain way. Zach's out of Atlanta. I love Zach. He's a great agent out of Atlanta, and he has something that is unbelievable. It's a vision. It's a team vision. And not just the agents, but the staff, too, buys into it. And it's what the vision is for the team. And when you're hiring your first assistant or whether you're hiring your third assistant, you want to make sure that you are sharing that vision. What is the vision of that team? Okay, folks, we're at this year. You know, Susan, I'm looking to hire you, bring you on as my first assistant. I'm doing 60 units right now. You know, my vision is for next year for us to do 100, and our goal is to bring the second assistant on this time next year, and for us to go from 100 to 140. You know, what is that vision here? Maybe you might be a veteran agent who has been a single agent all those years, 20 years, and you've been doing 50, 60 units, and you say, Susan, what my goal is I'm planning on maintaining the 50 to 60 units in here. I'm bringing you on here, but I plan on cutting my work week back by 25% here. Some people will do that. Does the dollar figure work for you? That's something you have to decide. But paint the vision out. They're going to be a cheerleader. I mean, that's one of the big things that I say on the assistants. You got to be a cheerleader. Jill's more of a cheerleader for me than Mel is. Mel's that deep type personality. Jill got a little bit of eye into her. She's more of a creative person there. And, you know, she's a little bit more of a cheerleader and things like that. Let's face it, this business can be tough. You know, I lost, the end of January, within 2 hours, I lost $43,000 commissions from 2 closings. And in my marketplace, that is a boatload of money. And, you know, it's just I had 2 big deals go down back to back. And, you know, it was one over a sign ordinance on a commercial piece, and one was from a home inspection on a huge log cabin and things like that. And that was a tough day, you know, and it's just, you know, you need to have that cheerleader to pump you up, keep you going. You know, you're the best. Squeeze the orange. This to me is where the difference between a good Playmate and a great Playmate is. Squeeze the orange. When you do a piece of advertising, you don't use it one time. You better be using that advertising 2, 3, 4 times. For example, I go in and I put my listing in a Real Pro website, nkyhomes.com. We put it up there. We tag base it. And when we put the tags in there, and it might be a waterfront home, ranch home, 3-car garage, okay? We're able to go to Twitter. We're able to go to Facebook. We're able to go to Craigslist. We're able to go other places out there and put that listing out there more. How can you squeeze the orange? You should not be coming to the table with all the information. Once you get a good assistant, it is part of the team. They are part of the partnership. They need to be bringing to you things like this. And this is what I'm saying, you throw paint up against the wall. Whatever they say, no, you keep your mouth shut and you don't say, no, that won't work. No, we're not doing that. No, trust me, I've been there. I did it, and guess what? They shut up on me. And I had to start the process over, and I had to bite my lip and say, okay, let's look at it. And, you know, daggone it, you know, a couple of times they were right and I was wrong. And guess what? I turned around and it made things a lot easier for us. And you want to get the most out of everything. And I'm a firm believer in squeezing that orange, and it saves you money and it makes you money. The right hire is an unbelievable feeling. You get a good person, you get that cheerleader, you get somebody who's pushing you there, and somebody your clients like dealing with. The wrong hire, it emotionally drains you, and it costs you a lot of money. And that's why you take the time up front. And I'm a firm believer in the gut. And when I say in the gut, you know, if you met that person 2 or 3 times, there's been several times I've actually met the spouses. If they are not getting background, if they are not getting somebody in the back, their family there supporting them with what they're doing. I remember I had a young girl once I hired, and she had about a 35-mile drive in from the country into the city here, and her boyfriend she was living with at the time was just beating her up all over because she was working in here and not working down in Dry Ridge. And, you know, I said, you know, I love having you here, but your life's going to be hell as long as you work for me. You really need to go back home and find something there. And it's just, you know, if I had met with the spouse ahead of time, you know what, I'd have probably known that a little bit better. Once you take that new assistant, you got that Playmate there, you want to get some personal information. This is another form that you'll be getting here. and this is just talking about different things. You know, you got your emergency contact and just walking through, and it's get the children's birthdays and things like that. Team retreat.
Hey, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just have a question. When you talked you went briefly about letting somebody go, and I wanted to have you just spend a minute on that. How do you recognize when it's time to let someone who's worked with you for a long time go and move on, and what process and how soon do you actually, make that decision to fire?
Here's what I've learned. We never fire. We help them make that decision. I've had to fire twice in 21 years. When you are thinking that it's time for them to go, they should have been gone a long time ago. And guess what? They know it before you do. Usually, you can tell by the emotional. They dread coming into work and things like that. And this team retreat really kind of focuses in on a little bit about that. And what I talked about before, where I had to let go. Before, I wanted the business plan was all about me saying we're going to do this. And it was Linda McClain, she did one of my first retreats, and I'm going, and she goes, no, Mike. That's not how it's done. And I go, well, what do you mean? I said, I'm driving the vision. She goes, the team drives the vision. And once I did that, letting go some things, there was a couple people, it was probably Melanie. It was probably about the 10th or 12th year I had her. I mean, I wouldn't be with that. It'd be more around the 5th or 6th year I had her. It would probably been, she was in 98, probably around 03, 04. She was getting frustrated a lot because I had some old beliefs that had to stay in place. They were concrete, and they were causing her a huge amount of problems. And, when I let go of those beliefs and opened it up and it let her grow some wings there, all of a sudden, things got a lot easier, and I was proven wrong in my beliefs. If you do, the twice I've had to let somebody go, when you do go in to make that final cut there, they usually know it's coming or have got an idea, but you never walk into a room by yourself with that person. You always have a second person involved there, and just for legal reasons of that nature there, you have the paperwork drawn up. Whether you decide to put a severance in or something like that, that's up to you. Know what your state laws are, know where your local laws are and things there, because each state's a little bit different on how that's handled. Know how payroll is handled. You want to make sure that all passwords are changed immediately. Usually those passwords are changed even before you walk into that room and things of that nature. And as soon as that person walks out the door, you have a team meeting. And the first words out of so-and-so is no longer with the team. We want to wish them the best. We hope things work out for them, and whatever they decide to do in the future, that it works out positive here. This is a time for us as a team to be pulled together here and step forward. Unfortunately, for the next 2 to 4 weeks, I might be asking a little bit more of you in something that you normally did not do to get covered until we decide how we're going to handle this. I apologize, but that's just the way it is. Now, some people will handle that a little bit different. My personality is a D. It's kind of straightforward. Here's where we are. Here's how we're going to handle it. My team reacts well to that. I have coached other teams I know that would not be handled that well if I came across that straight, especially more of the S's than the I's. Especially the S's. They need to know that they're safe themselves. Does that answer your question? Hope so. Team retreat questionnaire. You're going to get a copy of this right here. This is a copy of Amy Sturz right here. I'll give Amy credit for this. And, I suggest on your team retreat of doing that in the fourth quarter. We want to do that and go over the fourth quarter, and we go over the positive things and the negative things. We've already wrote down one of the question marks in our fourth quarter is, okay, we lost 2 big deals into January that really hurt our cash flow. What could we have done to see that those hadn't happened? Now, one of them was a side ordinance that we just couldn't get work around. The other one was the whole house inspection. But was there something that we could step up? If you've got, X amount of percent of your transactions that don't close on time, and they're closing, 10, 20 days later, is there something in the process that you can do to keep that there? And maybe it might not be your staff, it might be the mortgage company staff, or the title company staff that you need to have a talk to. But just sit down and look at that. The team retreat questionnaire, whatever they come up with, you need to talk about with them as a team right there. This one right here was from 2010. We had a local, Melanie and Jill, and everybody came into the office here, and we came in and we had this, and we talked about what a team is, and we really got into what the mission and statement was, and they wanted more of an internal mission statement and an external mission statement, and I was more for one, but they were really into, we need to have an internal mission statement between us. And you see, there's sometimes where God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You how to keep your mouth shut, and you work with it. It's as I say, with having good staff, good team members. Sometimes it's like being married. You know where to pick your fights and when not to pick your fights there. But this is a copy also that you'll get here also. This is a set of flyers I sent one of my assistants, and this was just saying, hey, I just want to know that you're deeply appreciated, and I appreciate everything you do. And from that, it was totally unexpected. It wasn't around a birthday. It wasn't around an anniversary, and everything like that. And it's just something to catch them off guard a little bit. Just saying a special thank you. Their birthdays, their children's birthdays, their anniversaries. Just because day off unexpectedly, it's like Mel had a migraine yesterday. She came in this morning here, and I said, I can tell you don't feel good. She goes, nah. I said, after you get down with those 2 files, get out of here. Go and get home, get yourself feeling better. You know what? We got a lot of work in here she could be doing, but you know what? It's more importantly for her to get herself better, and you take it, instead of slave driving them there, take care of them. You want somebody who will go to battle for you. And there are points and times where you're out doing a listing appointment, you're out there doing that, and they're working in a contract with another agent or something like that. They need to be able to go to battle for you and be a loyal team member. Now, saying that, I firmly believe in licensed assistants. I have had unlicensed assistants before, and I will probably use one this summer who will be an unlicensed. I'll probably hire a college intern for 3 or 4 months to help me on some projects. But 95% of the time, I will use licensed assistants. Some people will try to get around the employment standard and call them an independent contractor. Be very, very, very careful on that. You're going to lose most of the time the way the IRS is set up. Work hard, take them out to lunch. We do we bring Jill and Mel and myself, and I'm a very, very small team. There's myself and one other agent, Ray. He's called a team agent. He's not a buyer agent. He can list and sell. He's underneath of us. And there is myself, Mel is full-time, and Jill does 20 to 30 hours a week. And we get out, we do at least one lunch a month, if not 2 lunches together. And it's 60% of the time, it's a BS session, just talking about how families, what's going on in life. And the other 50% of the time is, okay, what's going on in the office? What can we correct here? Something was brought up the other day that Ray and I wasn't doing right on the paperwork. We need to be able to do this, which saves them time, things like that. They appreciate that when you take care of them. I've taken the families. We have we call those Brazilian steakhouses, and the husbands love these steakhouses. And between Christmas and New Year's every year, we as a whole team go out, and it's become a big deal. I mean, it's become a big deal, and we take the kids with them. They got Mel's got 2 in college, and we go out with all the families there, and it was like this past year was 16 of us. And it was something we look forward to and we enjoy. And they appreciate that you are willing to bring their families into them. You take care of them. This is Seneca. This is Mel's daughter. She was a kindergarten when she started. She's a sophomore at Eastern Kentucky University right now. We do a Santa party every year. It's a client event. And I always get the kids' pictures in there. When you got the right one. When you got the right assistant, you do whatever you got to do to take care of them. And, you put the time and the effort in training them and things like that. There are points and times where they will leave and go out their own. I've got one, two, three. I got 4 assistants who have been with me who are out selling real estate right now and who are doing quite well. Wish them the best. From there on, you never say nothing negative. Wish you the best. You've been trained well. Go out and do well. Mel doesn't want to sell. She wants to be in the office. And as I tell people when I'm talking, I said, you're going to hear me say the word we. I said, there's Melody and myself. And I said, Mel handles the office and I handle the street. And they pick up on that real quick. When they call in the office, Mel will answer their questions or take the information. I've got a good one. I would do what I got to keep her. Jill does a great job in what her position is, and I will do. One thing I will say that we didn't do in the past, we do very good now, is tell the story. If you're meeting with your clients, have a personal brochure or a page in your listing presentation talking about who's on the team and who does what. Who am I going to talk to? And, I got you, Mel and Jill, just be quite honest, 2 years ago set me down and said, listen, you got to start talking to these sellers. We're getting torn apart. They're calling in here. You're not staying followed up with them as much as you need to be. I'm like any other real estate agent. I don't like talking to them. I'm going to be honest. Things like that. At some point, it's like, you need to reduce the property, but, there. So what we set up is 3 days a week, Jill calls me at 9 a.m., and I talk to sellers, and we talk to 4 to 5. I've got 67, 68 listings right now, and we talk to 4 or 5 sellers every day, and Jill's on the call. Now that has been super fantastic. That has worked so well for us because I'm talking to them, I tell them what we're going to do. Jill writes it down and makes sure it happens. Okay, that was 2 assistants. That wasn't came from me. That was 2 assistants who was having some problems, and they came to me and said, hey, we need this to be taken care of. Here's how we think it needs to be done. And you know what? They did a great job. Sometimes, you know what? I should have hit this slide when I had that discussion with Jill and Mel. I just sat there, kept my mouth shut, and took it like a man. Because those 2, Mel had just gotten her butt really chewed out on something that was my fault. And they there. And then sometimes they just got to blow steam. Somebody screwed up at a title company or something got done. We all know how this real estate goes, Something didn't happen that was supposed to, and it wasn't their fault, and they got some steam to blow. Sometimes you just sit there and you get that look on your face, and you don't smile or laugh. Unfortunately, sometimes I'll start smiling. She goes, what are you laughing about? I said, this is not funny. I said, I'm not laughing about it. I'm really not. The thing's there. Where can you learn? This is a picture of Blondie's Pizza in San Francisco, down there where the cable cars turned around. We had a CRS celebration there, and I had a little party ahead of time. When you go to these conferences where it's with your company or whether it is a CRS, it's a top 5, it's NAR, get out to lunch, get out to dinner with some of these top agents. This is Sam Miller on the right, Rob Levy in the bottom right, and Ira Serkis up in the left there, and you got Portland where Rob's from. Sam is from Central Ohio, out in the rural areas, Mount Vernon, Ohio, and Ira is from Berkeley, California. You got 3 different completely markets there. Walk up and talk to the top agents. 90% of them will talk to you and sit down right there and learn what they're doing, ask them what they're doing, or follow up with them. And then, the top conferences, top 5 is going to be having some conferences in the future. There's CRS Celebration, there's NAR and things there. Get out and get amongst those people. And what you hear on stage and things there, don't be afraid to approach those people and talk to them or get them off to the side, buy them a drink. When Star Power conferences were going on and everything, I got interviewed with Howard in, let's see, my tape came out in February 04. It would have been October 03. And the way the Star Power Star interviews went, they were 4-hour interviews, and then they took the best information down to an hour. And I said, Howard, let me tell you something. You know what the best part of your conferences is? And he looks at me, he smiles, and goes, what, Mike? I said, it's the bar. He goes, it's the what? I said, it's the bar. I said, you know what? We get 8 to 10 of us from different parts of the country, and we can take a subject and we can chew it apart. And there's been many a night where I've been 2, 3 in the morning and had maybe 2 beers in 6 hours, but we sat down there and we talked about different subjects and things. That is what the power is going to these conferences there. in the end, this is what you want to get. 2 Christmases ago, this is what I got surprised with. I love creme brulee, but I mean, this right here meant everything to me right here. And this was from the team to me as being the best boss. You want to treat them with respect, and you want to do whatever you can to make them well. And, you know, I want my assistants making the most amount of money that possible be, because if that means if I'm paying them that, that means I'm doing well. And again, you know, you just got to get out, get a little creative sometimes, and have some fun. You're having a rough day. It's been a rough week. It's been a rough month. Sometimes, you know what, shut the office down and go out and get the team and just go out and whatever it is, whether it's going to a golf course, whether it's going to a casino, whatever, movie theater, whatever it is, sometimes this. This is a shot that we took when we went down to Kentucky State Fair. And we just went down one afternoon and just, you know, got out there and just relieved a little pressure and things like that. Go Reds. I'm a huge Reds fan. Major League Baseball starts Monday. Cincinnati Reds are the oldest franchise. They start Monday at 4:30 p.m. Me to tell you right now, 2013 World Series champs are going to be the Reds. And, hey, have a super fantastic 2013.
I love that, Mike. Go Reds. That's what it's all about. A couple of things that I learned a lot from this call today, Mike. I really appreciate all the information and all the content that you're willing to share with our top 5 members. I will say that there is a downside to this call, and I'd like to share that with you. And that is that my assistant, Miriam, has been listening and Skyping me saying, see, you need to do that. You should be doing that.
You know, we all learn from each other, man. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I think it's awesome, and so there's some things that I definitely can do better, and I definitely will do better. And also just publicly let Miriam know that she is a rock star in my world. She runs the show and keeps me looking much better than I really am, and that's what makes a great assistant.
That's absolutely true. That is absolutely true.
So, Mike, we're a little bit over on time, but if you stick around for just a minute, let me open up the call, see if anybody has any questions for you. You have a super agent and a good man on the phone that's willing to take some calls. Anybody have any questions for Mike before we wrap this call up today? Mike, one quick question. Where's is there one best place that you've found to advertise to find a new assistant?
If it's your first assistant, I would look at places where a legal secretary is hired at. If it's going to be your very, very first one. Hiring the first one is the toughest one. There's no doubt about that. And, you know, they should be paid about what a legal secretary in your marketplace should be paid. You know, it depends on what part of the country you're in. You know, some parts of the country that's 30, 35,000. Some parts of the country that's 60, 65,000. But, you know, I would look at it depends whether you want college educated or not. I have 3 markets that I take care of. I take care of urban, rural, and suburbs. And, you know, I'm from the country, as you can, you might be able to pick up on my language. I cover a 65, from one end of my marketplace to the other end, it's 65 miles. So I'm not in the office that much. I'm on the road. I can get by, and I can get somebody good without a college education. If I'm in a metroplex somewhere, you know, that might be a different story, you know, from that standpoint. But I've always said as the first assistant, find out where your legal secretaries are getting hired, where they're marketing at. I really have had really good, strong success in the past with college interns, and using them for 2 to 3 months, and then they're between their junior and senior year, and then use them part-time through their senior year, and then hire them full-time afterwards.
I like that concept. That's actually a really good idea. How important is it to hire someone that's got real estate experience?
Not at all. Usually, if you don't hire somebody with real estate experience, they don't have the bad ideas and the bad, you know, this can't be done and things like that. I prefer if I'm hiring agents, I love to hire agents who are ex-insurance agents. If I'm hiring assistants, that legal comes back in. You know, is it a job where they had to think on their feet? That's the key. I mean, really, if you really think about a personal real estate assistant, can they think on their feet, and can they move? Because, you know, in some jobs, it's just, you know, they point and click, and they don't have to think on their feet. Well, here they're talking to a seller, they're talking to a buyer, they're talking to a title company, they're talking to you. They got to be able to move and think on their feet a little bit. So, look at those positions like that.
Okay. So when you hire someone, they're not licensed, and you want a licensed assistant, do you pay for the licensing, and do you pay them while they're in school?
The answer on that is yes. They pay for it up front. Now, there's been a couple times where they financially could not do it, and I did it. One worked out, one did not. But historically, they will pay for it up front. That way they are buying into it, and I reimburse them back. And I reimburse them back over a 3 to 6 month process.
Yeah, I like that. It gives them a commitment. Make sure that they have some skin in the game, and they're committed to stay so they can get reimbursed.
That's exactly right.
Good stuff. All right, I don't have any other questions coming in, Mike. They've got what a great call today, and what great information. I really appreciate you sharing everything with us. And I know you've got a crazy busy schedule, so I'll let you get out there and sell some more real estate. Have a great rest of your week, and we look forward to everybody joining us on the next Top 5 in Real Estate call. If you'll advance to slide 1 for me, Mike, this shows them where they can go in. There's a new feature on the coaching back office. In your Top 5 in Real Estate back office. Can you advance the slide for me?
I'm sorry about that. Let's see here. And,
let's go one more.
One more?
Yep. If you go to your, nope, that was it. If you go right here to your back office and you click on the coaching tab, that's where you can download and listen to today's call, as well as download any documents that Mike has offered to share with us. So in all of our calls, they're all there on the coaching tab in your Top 5 back office, and we encourage you to go there, listen to the previous calls. As good as this one was, there's been many others, and there's some other great ones that are on the calendar. And we look forward to hearing from you. Please, if you'll all do me a favor, for those of you that found great value in today's call, please go on and share it on Facebook. Share it on your pages. Go to the top agent groups that you're part of, and let's continue spreading the word during our membership drive that Top 5 is offering great value to their members. Thank you all for being here, Mike, and thank you once again. I'll talk to you all very, very soon. Bye now.
Thank you. Thanks, Bill.